And if I remember correctly, so this happens mid-October 2014. The procedure for applying for British University was that I had to complete my application until the end of December, before Christmas. January and Feb, the universities will actually inform me if I'm accepted or not. And March was the very last month that I could actually go and sit the English exam. So all in all, to prepare for my English exam, I had to take IELTS academic exam. To learn English on an academic level, I had exactly 5 full months. And I didn't have the money for the courses. Which was another problem. And I must tell you all, there is no such power as a person with the proper motivation and the correct mindset. Honestly, if you have the correct motivation, if you have the correct mindset, you are unstoppable. That was my decision. I immediately called my mother and I said, Mom, look, I decided to do this and this. I told her about the UK. I told her about the student finance, but I said, you need to help me and start sending me some money on a regular basis to support myself and to pay for my English courses. No problem. I have very, very supportive family. Both my mom and my grandparents helped me tremendously in this. And I started I started attending English lessons the very same month, I think. I couldn't afford 5 months worth of English lessons, so I ended up paying for probably 2/3 of the lessons, and the rest was just self-preparation at home. Just myself opening the textbooks or watching YouTube videos about how to prepare for academic IELTS and doing exercises. That was it. My teacher at the time helped me a lot to create my my motivation letter for the university. This was one of the requirements to apply to university. And fast forward to Jan, Feb, I received a letter from all 5 universities. I applied to 5 universities and I got accepted to all 5. And this was very, very good news. My efforts actually had some results, and I was advancing with my English, exercising more. At the time, I was already out of work, so I had to quit my job to fully concentrate on the English lessons. And everything that I did at the time was either stay home, exercise, go for a walk in the park with friends for no more than half an hour, go back at home, or I was attending English lessons. That was it. That was for 5 months. Everything I did for 5 months was inside home, learning English, or attending English lessons. Now, the levels of English in Europe are 6 altogether, and as follows: A1, A2, B1, B2, and C1, and C2 is the 6th one. C2 is obviously the highest one. I had to score on the academic IELTS exam at least 6 out of 9. 9 is the best, 6 was the minimum that I had to pass. The equivalent of level 6 on IELTS exam, scoring 6, is probably B1 level, according to the European classification. The time I had was only enough to complete A2 and very briefly touch B1. So approaching the exam date, I think it was mid-March or end of March, I don't remember, 2015 is that. Approaching the exam date, my teacher, whom I have to say very, very big thank you. She was amazing and very patient with me and extremely good teacher. So she started preparing me for the idea me not passing the exam. And this meant that if I don't pass the exam, I was unable to study in the UK. And I remember the last few weeks, everything I did was practicing exam questions. So apart from learning the theory, I had to learn how to perform on the questions, what type of questions there were on the exam. The exam date comes. I don't know how. I remained calm. I still remember the day. I had a coffee at home. I went with my car. It was the exam was held in a hotel, a conference room in a hotel in Burgas. So at least I didn't have to travel to another city. I went there. I went in and out. I don't quite remember what happened in the room. I don't quite remember. And I passed it. I passed the exam. And this was honestly I couldn't believe that I passed this exam. I scored 6.5, 0.5 above the minimum requirement. And I was so happy with myself. I was so proud. And I guess this is the moment when I learned that if you put the work, if you look forward, if you put the work, and if you have the proper mindset, the proper motivation, everyone can achieve everything. There is nothing that's impossible, honestly. Anyway, that was that with this challenge. I was extremely happy. I called my parents, I called my mom. I say I passed the exam. All my family is very very happy. All my friends celebrate with me. And I was going to UK. At the time, I already accepted one of the offers, and I decided to study finance and investment, um, which is very close to wealth management in Coventry University. And there was another problem, of course. I didn't have enough money to pay for student accommodation. So, student accommodation at the time, I'm talking about 2015. It was my first academic year. The student accommodation was around £5,000 to £6,000. I didn't have that kind of money, and I didn't have other choice than either quit, which wasn't an option, of course, or search for private accommodation. I had to rent from private landlord. Okay, I decided to do that, to search for private accommodation. However, me and my family didn't have enough money to save up for me to face the expenses during the first months of the education. So my only options was to get as much money as we could gather at the moment, and leave the country, come to UK, try to find a job, and start saving money for the first academic year. And this is what I did. On 10th of July, I arrived in London, and I was so lucky that just a few days prior to that, I connected with a good old friend of mine. So this friend of mine was living in London. She was in the UK, I think, for 3 or 4 months at the time, and she offered the following. She said, "Come, stay with us. We're few Bulgarians in one house. Come stay with us until you get on your feet, and until you find a job. At least you will be able to get the national insurance, and we will help you out with this." And this is what I did. On 10th of July, I arrive in the UK. She tells me where to go, and somehow I managed to find my way with the tube and everything. It was my first time abroad. It was my first time in foreign country. I think prior to that, I've been only to Greece, and it was quite an exciting moment for me to see London, one of the best cities in Europe and if not in the world. And yeah, I went to the house, and for the first 20 days in the UK, I was sleeping on the floor. I remember sleeping on the floor in the attic room of the house because all of the other rooms were busy, were occupied with other tenants, and I have to say I was quite happy because I was on my path to fulfill my plan. I wanted to find a job, and for me at the time, it didn't matter if I sleep on the floor, if I'm outside, if I'm inside. It just didn't matter. I had a goal, and I had to pursue. That was all. Luckily, the people in the house were amazing. I established very good friendships at this particular house. I'm to this day very grateful to all of them because everyone contributed to my development, helped me in some way. And yeah, I stayed in that house. And at the time, I was applying for job positions both in Birmingham and London. I honestly preferred to find a job in Birmingham because Birmingham is very close to Coventry. And in my mind was that if I found a job in Birmingham, it would be easier for me to keep the job after the start of the academic year and potentially continue to work and study at the same time. And I got a phone call from some company, some agency, recruitment agency in Birmingham, and I got an interview. And I went straight to Birmingham, and I didn't have money to stay there in a hotel or some other accommodation, and I had to stay in this hostel where I was in a position that I had to sleep on the second level of a bunk bed, and I was hugging my luggage, protecting from someone to rob me or something. I didn't know anyone, and I didn't know the city. It was this particular hostel was in some bad neighborhood, so it was a little bit scary experience. But I managed. Anyway, I didn't get this job, and the day after the interview, I got a phone call from London for my national insurance. I went straight to London, and then I got a second phone call from one of the agencies offering me a job position as a painter, and I ended up starting in this position, which was actually quite a luck again. The position was to paint hotel rooms in a hotel situated near High Street, Kensington, so the area was very good. And I was traveling with the tube from East Ham, where the house was, to High Street, Kensington, do my job, and then travel back. And yeah, that was my experience in the first summer that I spent in UK. I was lucky to find this job position because I was already running out of money. I didn't know what to do. I'm very lucky that I had this friend living in London at the time. But I believe that everyone should search for luck. Don't wait for luck to come and find you. Search for your luck. Take the steps necessary. And I managed to save up some money. I successfully started my academic year. I paid my rent for 2 months, and I bought myself basically 60 days until I could find my next job. And I did it. Luckily, I think it was the snowballing effect. I was already more confident. I had some experience in the UK. I had my national insurance number, and I started working as a 0 hour contract waiter and bartender. And this is how I supported myself during my studies. After year two at university, I was one of the 3 people that managed to find a placement. I spent my placement year in a very good company. Then I continued to work for them up until the beginning of this summer. I was made redundant because of coronavirus. And the thing just clicked because last year I started this financial blog, personal financial blog, Money Constructor. And I wanted to write articles and help people learn more about investing, more about personal finance, more about budgeting. This was the very core idea for Money Constructor. And this came because at the time I was working in the corporate financials side, but my education is wealth management, finance and investment. It was more towards financial advice and financial planning. And I was kind of in between both. It was hard for me to decide which one I should take as my career, but I guess it just found me. And I found myself always leaning a little bit more towards the personal financial side and the financial advice and the financial planning and the financial coaching. Unfortunately, though, I didn't enjoy it writing articles that much. And that's why I started looking for different ways to connect with people. That's why I started the podcast. For example, the podcast format I like more than writing articles, but I still write. I enjoy writing. And that's why I'm recording this episode now. I decided to try YouTube as an addition to my podcast, as an addition to my financial blog. And this is my plan now. I found myself risking almost everything a few times in my life. And I believe um, times of change can bring the greatest opportunities in life. That's why after I was made redundant, I didn't just start in looking for another position immediately. I said to myself, right, what can I do to start doing what I like, start doing what I want to do, and at the same time help someone else. And that was it. I just started the blog, started the podcast, and I hope now with the YouTube episode this will be successful as well. So yeah, that's it for today's episode, guys. From now on, I will continue publishing every Tuesday. I have some plans starting publish twice a week instead of once a week, but we will see how it goes. I have a lot of planned articles, a lot of planned podcast episodes for you. If you enjoyed this episode, please hit the subscribe button. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google Podcast, Stitcher, and now on YouTube. If you watch the video, hit the notification button to get notified whenever I post new video. And don't forget to like the video as well. This will help me tremendously. If you enjoyed this, please do all this stuff because I'm starting from zero. That's all for today, guys. Stay safe.